Hello, hello. Welcome back, or welcome to Into the Nothing with your favourite podcast host, Patrice. And today I have my girlfriend, Jess, who has been on Into the Nothing twice already. You know, if you listen to my podcast, that I'm a big fan of repeat guests. I'm literally just following my intuition. There is no strategy here. I've had a lot of women reach out to me about speaking, about doing podcasts and asking my strategy. And it really is a genuine impulse, a genuine want to have someone on. That's really where this comes from. And it's always stemming from helping women to be more successful and feel more successful and whatever that looks like for them. So Jess is coming on for the third time. And the first time Jess came on was episode 18. It's going to tie in really beautifully with this conversation we're about to have. So feel free to listen to that if you want more of Jess and more of this kind of parent-child, the conversation around how to have a more harmonious and happy home. So that is episode 18. It was literally called Parent and Child Relationships. And then the last time Jess was on was episode 40, and that was where we dove into Vipassana, which if you don't know what Vipassana is, it's, again, you can listen to the episode, but it's basically 10 days sitting in silence, meditating, getting to know yourself in a way that really only probably Vipassana can gift you. Challenging AF, but rewarding. And so, Jess, welcome back to Into the Nothing for another chat about happy homes.
Yeah, so happy to be here. And who knows where we'll go. This is so cool. You know what I was thinking about when you were sharing all of that with me is that, you know how Facebook and Instagram, if you post a lot, it kind of tracks your life journey. And, you know, when we get to 80 or 90, we could probably look back and watch, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I remember that. Oh, yeah, that tracked my life. I feel like the amount of times I've been on here twice before, and now this is the third, and who knows what the future holds. But I feel like your podcast has tracked such a cool journey of mine. So it's really cool. I think I need to go back and listen to those podcast episodes too.
Oh my gosh, you so should. And God, when I go back and listen to early ones, one, I can find that they give me so much value, like my own words. I'm like, oh, Patrice, you better get back into that habit or doing that thing.
Yeah.
But also I do have moments where I cringe a bit. I'm like, oh gosh, why did you sound like that? But for a bit of context for you all listening, is that Jess is a motherhood and family therapist, and her background is in social working and kids yoga therapy and also NLP and so many other awarenesses and wisdom to share with mums and families. And Jess has a movement called the Happy Home Movement. And her whole goal with her business and her career is to help mums feel wildly fulfilled with life. Now, the cool thing that Jess was kind of pointing out, which I love and why I wanted Jess to come back on the podcast today, is because when Jess has come on the podcast before and in her career previously, I always thought it was super interesting that Jess was helping mums and kids find more harmony in the home. But for over a decade, you didn't have kids yourself. So you weren't speaking from, you know, your own experience, but you were working with, you know, hundreds of women. So you had a loads of experience in that capacity. But now you've had a little munchkin. She's 13, 14 months old.
Yeah, 14 months. Yeah.
14 months. And so you are now running courses, helping mums from the experience of having a kid. When I share that with you, what first comes to you about the experience of not having children and now you do? And what do you know now when you're working with mums? Like, what do you feel now knowing that you are a mum?
Yeah. I love this question because I grappled with this question before I had children doing this work, and now I reflect on it now having had my daughter, because I often used to think to myself, I wonder if I'll eat dirt once I have a child. This was a thought in the back of my mind constantly. I wonder if you are just going to pack it all in, you'll realize you're a joke and everything that you stand for is fake and you don't even know what you're talking about, and you're going to have to redesign your business and quit and pivot really quick. And then I had Amelia, and nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, what what did happen was a whole heap of clarity. And I would say, when you look out of a window that hasn't been washed for a really long time and it's quite murky, I would say since having Amelia, it's like those windows have been cleaned. The clarity that's come in terms of how simple we can make having a happy home, how simple we can make having children and raising them, although it doesn't feel simple, by the way. I really want to make that clear because anything about my journey has been simple either. That's not what I'm saying. But also on a personal level, the clarity that's come in terms of what mums really need and what I want to be doing with my business, my life, how I want to be living my life, how I want to show up, how I want to act, how I want to behave, how I want to be just in my everyday world for myself, for my daughter, for my family. It's just become so much more clear, so much more simple. And everything that I was saying before, all the programs I've created, they're so great. I still love doing them because they are it for me. I can see the benefit. I haven't changed my opinion. I do believe that the magic starts with the mother in the home. I do believe the magic starts when us as parents start to look inward so then we can alter the external. And I always did preach that, but there's always this little voice inside of my mind saying, you just may not know what you're talking about, Jess, because you haven't had a child. Even though the hundreds and hundreds of families that I've worked with, the ones that do evolve, the ones that do transform and will tell me, I cannot believe that I finally feel more connected to my children, or I can't believe that I finally feel less anxious, or whatever it is for them, less overwhelmed, less guilty, massive one. They're always the ones where we started with the parent themselves. They're always the ones where we focused on mum, we focused on dad, and now I just work with mums. They're never the ones where we focused on child behavior 100% of the time. That's just not how it works. And, that's the whole reason why I left social work in the beginning, because that was the focus. So I would say that things have become clearer, and I love so much more what I do now, which I'm so grateful for. I really believe that my daughter has shown me my path to my true self and my true nature, and what that's opening up inside of me is so exciting at the moment, and also really hard and tormenting at the same time. So it hasn't been easy at all, but I can see now the purpose in it has been to allow me back home to my true nature, which essentially has always been what I've wanted to do with mums, is to show them that path. Because although I didn't have children working with mums, I was a child of a mum who was very anxious and very burnt out and stressed for a lot of my childhood. And I simply did not want that for any other home. And I realize now, looking back, I didn't want that for my own life. So I needed to figure out a way to do that with families so that I felt safe enough to have my own child as well. I needed to know that a happy home was possible, because if I was having a child and it was going to turn out to be a home like mine when I was young, full of stress and anxiety and depression and just a lot of emotions and darkness sometimes. If it was going to be that, then I wasn't going to have a child. No way, not interested. So I almost needed to convince myself that the happy home was possible, that lightness is possible, that a mum that felt really good within herself is possible, and not 100% of the time, because we're not aiming for perfection. We're never aiming for perfection. But I needed to see that to go on the journey of becoming a mum. And that's been really beautiful for me personally.
Over the last 14 months,
Mm.
can you share a story of when there was a hard patch, a tough time, and a tool that you use that you share with a lot of mums, or a mindset shift, or I don't know, some sort of habit that
Mm.
helped you come back to some level of peace or of lightness when it started to get really crunchy and hard?
Yeah. So I think there's two things here. So one's going to be really practical, and the other one, it will probably be a little more, um, let's go with the term woo woo and esoteric, because everyone will understand what that means to some extent. So the first example I'll give is, yes, I completely understand how my daughter's brain is developing, and how that's working in conjunction with the nervous system and all of the emotions and all of the rewiring and the brain, what's going on, and but that it still doesn't mean that I don't get really, really, really frustrated. And it still doesn't mean that my nervous system doesn't want to completely explode to regain control, because it really does. Like, my nervous system wants to feel really calm all of the time. And most parents really want that. And if you're a parent listening, if you reflect back on a lot of the meltdowns and the big emotions that your children feel and face and that you see, and you think really critically about how you felt, what you were thinking, and the deeper reason behind your reaction, it's to regain control, so you feel better, so you feel calmer again, that you can feel safe again in your nervous system. It's all about the nervous system. And everybody's nervous system will react to different things. We've just got to get curious to figure out what that is, and then, get to know it in a really different, healthy way, which has been my journey over the last 10 years. So, there was one time, there's so many times though, that I felt my nervous system. And when I explain it to parents within their children, but it works the same for us, it's as simple as a volcano, right? The nervous system is building, 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 and something will just tip you over the edge. So with a child, it's like maybe they've had a really tough day, and maybe they've been really tired from the weekend, and which, has happened with Amelia many times. And maybe she's going through a sleep regression, which means I'm not getting any sleep. And maybe she's teething. And maybe she had a really big weekend and she didn't have as good a sleep as she needed to, which has been recently, but that's happened over the last 14 months many times. And so her emotions are big, and she's squealing and she's screaming at me, and she wants to be held all of the time. And here I am. I want to be really productive, and I want to do things, and I want to get things done around the house, because the messy house is driving me absolutely nuts. And I feel like I'm living in a chaotic, animal cave of a home, and I really want some order and I want some structure, but I have this little being pulling at my clothes all of the time. And if I move too quickly, she's going to trip over and she's going to fall over, and then her squeals and screams are going to get louder and louder. So this can go on all day, right? So here we go, my nervous system building and building through the day. And then we get to the afternoon where I feel like I need time and space. I need to tap out, and this is a literal example. So maybe my husband doesn't come down at the time that I thought he would. So my nervous system then needs to go on for longer, being calm and regulated. And my brain wasn't prepared for that. And so I can feel my nervous system in this explosive, it wants to explode. And what's interesting here is, since doing these practices like Vipassana, where you dig so deep into your nervous system that you had no idea that these sensations existed, and this is what I teach my clients, and this is what I work on, you can literally sense that if you exploded, and if I scream at Amelia, I know I'm going to go back to ground zero. I can feel it. I can sense it. I know if I scream, it's going to feel so good. It's going to mean all of the tension is released from my body, and I may also regain the control back because she'll be quiet. So you can feel that so deeply in my body. I can feel it. And what I've had to do, and I haven't done this perfectly over the last 14 months by any means, but what I have to try to do in those moments, and when I do get it done in the way I want, is that I sit there so quietly, and sometimes I will close my eyes and I go into that explosive sensation in my body of the nervous system. I know it's telling me to scream, and I just stay silent, because the thing that goes through my head is what I do teach my clients. And it is that your reaction will continue to cement in the very thing that creates disharmony and an unhappy home. right? So if I give in to the reaction right now, if I allow my nervous system to take control of me and this situation, I am cementing in that this will be my future. I am cementing in that this will be more and more and more how I deal with my daughter's emotions. It will be how I deal with the future bigger emotions that we come across. I am not teaching myself anything. I am not teaching her anything. So it cements in what you currently don't want. That's the irony. And this is the paradox of being human, right? So I have to sit still and even if she's screaming at me, I just have to sit still, zone out of her and zone into me. And this is about redeveloping and re-getting to know that nervous system state, that really explosive state that wants to come out because it's happening for your kids. This is exactly what is happening inside their nervous system. It's just that they don't have the capacity to sit still, like I just explained. They don't have that capacity yet, even though much of the world will tell you it should be able to happen just because we give them a piece of paper and we've got red light, green lights. And if you're a parent that have been to any type of professional, you will understand the green light, red light system and that it's just not going to, stand the test of time in these big moments. So that's one thing that I have to do and that I do teach clients to do. We have to rewire our own nervous system and we have to get to know it in a really different, healthy way. And the way we do that is to prevent the reaction. We have to stop at the reaction and we have to meet that sensation where it's at. It wants to explode. Cool. Awesome. What does that feel like in my body? Awesome. How can I smile at it? How can I acknowledge it? How can I acknowledge that my daughter is not the problem in this moment? It's actually my own nervous system can't deal with it. It's not her problem. It's my problem. It's always my problem. So I think too, what I've learned over the last 12 years is that it's always me. It's always my nervous system. It's always my capacity to withstand what she presents me. So the question that I would be asking yourselves for anybody listening is my capacity growing and expanding, or is it stagnant or reducing? And if you continually react to the behaviors with the same reaction, you are stagnant and you are limiting. You are reducing your capacity. If you stop and pause, you're actually expanding your capacity to hold that space for your children, which is really cool because that's what you want as parents. You do. I know you do. We do. We love them so much. We want to make sure that they have this beautiful, happy, healthy life. So that's one thing. It's all about the nervous system. And the other thing is just recently, actually, when you have these, and this could be inside of motherhood, it can be outside of motherhood, but when you combine it all into this big package, it feels like a lot sometimes. It feels like the weight of it is really heavy. And only just in the last 2 weeks, it has been a monster breakdown 2 weeks for me. Huge breakdown in my extended family, in my own world, in my own home. There's been breakdowns everywhere. And when I say breakdown, it's like nothing feels like it's going right. Nothing feels calm. Nothing feels peaceful. Everything feels out of control. And nothing feels happy in my body. Severe anxiety. I haven't felt that anxious in a really long time. So, and one thing that I've started to do recently is, instead of figuring out what I need to control and what I need to do to fix everything, so this sensation and this anxiety and this sadness and this hurt disappears, is start saying thank you. So I start saying thank you out loud. And what I've been leaning into recently, and I suppose it's been a long time, is that, the energetic being that we are can only hold so much. And we can use energetic being, we can use nervous system. It's all combined. It's all together. It doesn't matter what language that you use. It's all speaking to each other. And that's what's so beautiful about the spiritual and the science, and all of it is just together. It's all one. It's all combined. And so we say thank you to it, because then we're not displaying any resistance to it. I'm not saying I can't handle this, because I can. And if I learn to experience and hold more of that discomfort, I will actually be able to experience so much more in my life. I will actually be able to hold and experience so much more joy, so much more connection, so much more financial abundance, so much more of whatever it is I desire. So that's something that I work with clients with as well. And I know this is such a long answer, Patrice. Oh my God. that's something that I work on as well, is how can we start to thank these things that come on in and practice that in real life, in these real moments where you don't want to be doing that. It's like the worst thing you could be doing, or it's not this default reaction that we thank it. And this just works with the energy, because one thing that one of my previous mentors always told me and taught me was, what you resist will persist. So how can we release the resistance, which is thank you. Thank you. Thank you for bringing this to me. I can handle more though. I can handle more. If you want to bring more to me, the universal energy, whoever you're speaking to, your guides, your angels, the universal energy, whatever, whoever it is, I can handle more though, because I've got this. Thank you. Thank you. I can handle more. And that really, it was almost like I was having an out of body experience when I was saying this to myself, because you're almost conscious, but you're not. You're almost being logical, but you're not. It's because it's a new way of dealing with these mega breakdowns that happen when your worlds collide or where it feels too big. So they're two things that they complement each other. They come in through all of the work that I do, but they're the two things that came to my mind when you asked that question.
And like you said, they seem like such a contradiction, or it's not a natural, or maybe just in our day and age, they're not too obvious actions to take in the moment when your kid's having a meltdown, whether they're 14 months old or they're 3 or they're 6 or they're 8. It doesn't feel like a logical step to take, to sit there and go, rightio, how can I right now bring my focus into me rather than yelling at this kid to shut up or stop it or cut it out or whatever it is. And then, yeah, that realization that there's a need for control in that. I need the space to be quiet, so I want to control this kid, rather than coming into a sense of focus of being with the discomfort. And I feel like it's this forever schooling in this life of being able to feel discomfort in the body, because growth equals discomfort. I always think of those shellfishes that need to, or like that lobster that, when they're ready for shell, they have to like push off their grow and escape their old shell to then have a new shell, and how excruciating that must be. And that really is what it really feels like that in my body. And to move into a new level in my business, in my relationship, right now organizing a wedding and having to have really adult conversations with everyone about all of their opinions that come to me 5 times a week about what they want, not really realizing that 5 other people are doing the same thing. And I'm like, whoa, I'm feeling a lot of like the tension and the discomfort. And then that other action to take in the moment, to start to say thank you to what feels like massive problems in our lives. But to start to do that, and this is the gap, like for anyone that's listening, to do it, because like, what do you have to lose? Like, this is what Jess has just shared is totally free, and it's going to take a lot of gumption and a lot of focus, and not doing it 10 times and then doing it 3 more times and forgetting about it again, but coming back to that to see results. Because like, what do you have to lose? It's a free option that Jess has shared. And Jess, when you're working with mums, what is another issue that you help them with really commonly? Like, what is something that they bring to you that you see all the time in mums and all of your years experience, but particularly with the mums that you're working with at the moment, or you've just finished up working with in your program? What is an issue that they bring to you and that you see and you're like, here it is again, here's that thing again that mums struggle with?
Yeah. Two things, and they go hand in hand so beautifully. It's almost really annoying. And most often people will roll their eyes when they hear the 2 words together, which is very funny, because it is the thing. And that is, I'll call it self-nourishment, because that feels better to me. Self-care, self-nourishment, and the guilt. So the guilt that comes through at so many different...
interrupt you. I knew you would say the G word. Like, I'm like, surely she's about to say mum guilt. Like, I just know.
I mean, yeah, if yeah, of course it has to be that. It is that. And, before I had Amelia, I knew it existed, right? Of course it existed. Everybody was coming to me with mum guilt. The reason they did do things, guilt. The reason they didn't do things, guilt. It's always ever present. It's always there. And now that I've had Amelia, I've felt it in my bones. I've felt it in my waters. I've felt it in my body. I've felt it in my soul. It is there. It's always there. It just does not really wash away completely. So it's something that I think we have to develop this. We have to develop, and I like the word you say, gumption. That's a really cool word. We have to develop this muscle and this practice of just smiling at it and smirking at it. And I think one of the things that mums often share with me is that well, I'll wait until this happens to do something I like, or to make this decision, or to do this for myself, or to go after this path in my life. I'll wait until my child feels this. I'll wait until my family is calm and everything is okay. I'll wait until this. So there's always this waiting game, almost expecting that the guilt would disappear and that it's something that is a short-term thing. It's just not. It's not. It doesn't matter what parent you talk to. You could talk to a grandparent and they've still got guilt over things that they did or didn't do in their own mothering journey. It's just always there. And I think that if only we would hear about it more, in that it's completely normal. It's just this experience in motherhood, which is what happens in my group programs, because they get to share their guilt-ridden experiences and thoughts and worries and fears. And they're not met with, oh, well, you shouldn't worry about it. Don't worry about that. Or, oh no, like, I've never felt that way, or that's a bit weird, or oh, that must mean that there's something inherently wrong with you, because I've never felt guilt around that. There's never these types of conversations. There's just like this knowing, yeah, I got you, I get you. It's so normal. And I think whenever there's something that repetitively goes through our mind as something wrong, it's guilt-ridden, it's fear-ridden, it's just because we haven't spoken out loud to somebody that can normalize it for us and can just listen and be a space for it to be released in that moment. Not expecting that it won't return again, though. That's what I will say, because it will return. The guilt does return. It comes back. Maybe it's got a different face or a facelift, but it will come back in other forms. And you know what's interesting is that, so just recently in the Happy Home Immersion, it's a 5 to 6 month experience. And what this experience is that these mums come to this program with I call it a bold and inspired goal. So it's something that they've always wanted to do, they've always wanted to achieve, or they've always wanted to go after, but they haven't. Usually it's because kids have gotten in the way, life has gotten in the way, guilt has gotten in the way, and they've just kind of decided, no, now's the time. Like, let's tackle this, let's do it. So what naturally comes up over and over and over again is self-doubt, guilt, self-worth, the issue that self-care means I'm being selfish, which again leads to more guilt. It's, all of these things come up. And what's interesting, every single time, it's this beautiful human joke, is that when we allow that to just be, we air it, we share it, we normalize it. Doesn't mean anything about you, doesn't mean anything about your family, your kids. And they choose the thing anyway. They choose the activity anyway. They choose the quitting of the job anyway. They choose the starting of the business anyway. They choose the night at yoga anyway. They choose the hairdressing appointment anyway. They choose it anyway. That is just the game changer of everything. Like, it's so simple yet really hard. That just changes everything. So the combination of having guilt feel normal, except it doesn't need to be in the driver's seat. Awesome, cool. Let's move on. Let's have it not be so significant in our lives that it takes us away from why we're really here, who you truly are, what you are meant to be doing with your days, your minutes, your seconds, and your time. And let that be that you matter. you matter to nourish. And I, even before I had Amelia, I always had this, and it's probably stems from what I saw as a child with my mum. I always said out loud to myself that even when I have a child, her life is not going to be more important than my life. Her life doesn't matter more than my life. We still have these two journeys that are now intertwined in a really beautiful way, but her life is not inherently more important just because she's my daughter. The reality of it is that if I make my life just as important, at least, right, just as important, then she gets to experience the most glorious life possible if I make my life matter as much as hers. And that means meeting my needs. And that means doing the things that I love. And it means, in whatever way that looks like, whatever is true to my true nature, whatever is true to my true self, whatever is aligned for me, she gets to experience more glorious days on this earth because I do. And that's the biggest game changer for most of my clients is when they start to choose that for themselves, even if they haven't done for 7 years, 10 years. And that's been the reality for a lot of the mums that I work with.
Something that I've been watching recently, I've started to follow this guy or watch some of this guy's content. I think his name is Brian Henderson on YouTube.
Okay.
I see little clips of his, and he is a personal development passionate man from the 70s, I think, or the 80s, like a while ago. And I don't know why he brings me, it's refreshing that he's so simple and it's quite like masculine, but he's always saying, do it now. Do it now, do it now. Do it now. The thing, do it now, do it now. And what that ties back to for me is the done is better than perfect that I love to tell myself because I used to love to try and make
Mm,
everything perfect and wait, like you were
mm,
saying, and procrastinate and never felt ready. And then I realized, well, you just
mm,
really don't get anywhere when you're waiting all the time. And so, but this guy, he cracks me up. He's got grey hair and he's got his suit on and he's at these personal development seminars, 30, 40 years ago. And he's always like, for success, you got to get into the habit of doing it now. Because, yeah, what
mm,
are we waiting for? And what are mums waiting for? And it makes me think too, when you were sharing that, I remember watching something or hearing something at some sort of personal development experience or event where they were saying that as little kids, our God are our parents, and we're always trying to make our parents happy. We want to make sure they're happy. That's like this
mm,
unconscious, conscious thing that we're all
mm.
doing, and our happiness is really tied to their happiness. And then it's that flipping the script of what if the parent really went all in on making themselves happy, which
Yeah.
and then the overflow of that cliche when my
Yeah.
cup full I can give from the overflow.
Mm.
What do you do to self-nourish? Like what's your go-to when you're feeling tired or you've been mumming for days and you getting your business moving certain things, making a funnel or whatever, and you're like, whoa, I'm feeling drained. What's your go-to thing that you lean on to fill Jess's cup up?
Part of who I am, I love to be really creative. I love creating. For me, my business now is a form of self-expression, and that comes with being really creative. It's for me to show, it's for me to express who I am and show the world who I am, which is really cool, and it's a really fun part of business, I think, um, when it's your business. So for me, one of the things that I do, well, I've started doing it recently because Amelia's sleep has gotten to a point where it's a bit predictable, so I can get up at 5 a.m. So I get up at 5 a.m. every morning, and I'll go outside and I'll breathe in that beautiful fresh air, and I just do a few breaths and I set some intentions for the day, and I just stretch out my back. And the smell of the air for me is, it smells like vipassana to me. So it smells like peace. It smells like harmony. It smells like divine connection. That's what the smell represents for me at that time of the morning. So I actually get really excited about smelling that because it really takes my mind and my body to a place where I has transformed my life in such a dramatic, beautiful way. And I love that smell. So that's something that I do. For me also, it's also the really simple things. When I think there was probably about a year where I didn't brush my teeth for two times a day, right? Before Amelia, I would brush my teeth 2 times a day all the time. And and I bring up this example because I was just speaking about it with a friend too, she's just had a daughter. She's 4 months old, 3 months old. And sometimes we can make those self-nourishing tasks really, really big and dramatic, and they actually don't need to be for your mind to feel like it's important and for yourself to feel like they matter. It doesn't need to be big. So in the beginning, after having Amelia, for me, it was like, well, brush your teeth twice a day. Then you know you matter because you've set time aside to do that small little thing. Then it might be, for me, like just having a cup of tea and doing something creative in my business where I don't need to think logically feels so beautifully like spoiling to myself. I love it so much. That is me. I love what I do. I now love what I do. So that feels so nourishing to me. And daydreaming, right? I can sit here and I look outside and I give myself permission to sit in stillness and silence without needing to do the washing. That's literally, as I'm talking to you, staring at me in the face. And I have to say, no, that's not for me today. For me today, because it's the one day my daughter is at daycare, for me today is Jess's day. It is the day to nourish Jess's wildest dreams. It is Jess's day to daydream and think about how she can go after the limitless possibilities that are available to her in her life, and how can she take action on that today. How can she do it? Okay, maybe it's at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning where she sits and she does a visualization, or she does a simple meditation, or she journals and writes down an affirmation. But it's for me, I love to daydream in limitless possibilities. And I think getting up at 5 a.m. is what I really look forward to doing in that space. I could feel my body come alive when I do that, because that is my nature. I seek adventure, I seek variety, I seek the richness of life. And I think, especially since having Amelia, I didn't have the time to do that. And when I say didn't have the time, I didn't create the time. And I really missed that side of myself. I missed that part of me. And that had me feel really discontent and unfulfilled and really sad and really lost for probably the first 12 months, really. And I'm sure I'll continue to, come out of that haze, right, of the first year of motherhood as I continue. But it's those things that bring me to life. And also I've put in my calendar Wednesday evenings is Jess's time. So Chaz knows that don't expect me home on Wednesday evenings. If I find that I've had a big week and I want that time, that's my time. I'm going to go. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to go to the movies with my girlfriend. I'm going to go to a bathhouse. So I choose that stuff because I've seen too much over the last 12 years, and especially my own family, my own mum, what happens if you don't do that as a person, let alone a mother. How can you nourish if you can't nourish yourself? It's not possible. And the days where I haven't felt nourished and I don't feel like I've really, I've chosen Jess, I don't connect as well with my daughter. I don't. I am so in my own world of, let's call it, overwhelm, suffering, whatever word you want to throw on it. I don't connect with her deeply. I don't, because I haven't nourished myself. I haven't chosen myself. I'm stuck in my thoughts. I'm stuck in my head of why I feel so crappy. And I don't want to have days like that continue and continue. So they still come up, of course, and they will. Fine, perfect. But if we know how to have the opposite more often than not, then let's choose that. If we've got a choice, let's choose that. I choose that.
Yeah, the choice of it all. I was with a girlfriend at the beginning of the year. We were catching up and she was sharing how she's unhappy most of the time.
Mm.
And I said to her, I'm not, but I put a lot of work into it. Like it's a really deliberate choice, and those things, simple things that you do, and I'm sure anyone who's listening is like, oh yeah, there are those things that I need to do, like go for a walk, or for you, Jess, it was walking out in the morning and smelling fresh air and stretching your body. It's the cup of tea that you like to enjoy. It's also the Wednesday nights that you have put in your family calendar of like, hey, this is Jess's time, Jess is out. It's these simple things. I always say ordinary habits create an extraordinary life. And I've only
I
really
love that.
realized that in the last few years. And I've really started to implement that in the last few years, but particularly the last year or so, of the really back to basic stuff. Like the five simple things I need every day is I know first thing I do is I wake up and I do not touch my phone and I meditate because I know that just before you go to sleep and just when you wake up, it's just this really special, powerful time for our brains where we're still in a slow brainwave state where it's just beautiful to access our dreams and create from that place, but to not ram information in with social media and first thing is so nourishing for us. As for me, so meditating first thing, having a shower for some reason. If I don't shower, like for you, brushing your teeth, but for me, if I get to 3 p.m. and I haven't showered, I feel so gross, like on an energetic level. I feel off, I feel funky. So I know for me, having a shower, moving my body, like going for a walk, and I don't take my phone 99% of the time, having protein for brekkie 90% of the time for me. And I do visualize quite a bit too. But yeah, those what are those simple things for anyone who's listening? What are those simple things that you need to choose for yourself to fill your cup up? Because you can tell that I've spoken to a lot of people lately in person at conferences, and I always ask the question, like, the feeling when you've been on your phone really late, so you didn't have a coffee, then your kid didn't sleep in the night, so you really haven't eaten. Then you're running late for work because you did get a bit of a like squeeze it in, but then you realize you're running over time, so you skip breakfast. And it just starts to compound and follow on, follow on, follow on. And then you make these mistakes at work and you send the email to the wrong person that it really shouldn't. It was about that person. You sent it to them and it's like a HR problem. And just these things compound. And it's like, we know what that feeling's like. And then we've all had a taste of what it's like when we did those basic things where we ate properly, we drank heaps of good quality water. We remembered that we were an animal. We just remembered that. And we started to remember that we need to do those things, like move our body, get some sunshine, eat properly. And then suddenly we're just funnier, we're more intuitive, we've got wit, we can do podcasts and not prepare. We're just like, life is so much better, but it really is those simple things like you with your cup of tea and your breath in the morning that's unique to you that you do. I've been saying a lot lately that in 2025, we don't have an information issue. We have an application issue.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So speaking of doing, what should mums be doing preparing to be a mum? What are some things that they could be doing right now? Because I'm inviting women who want to have a start a family on into listening to this podcast too. What's something they could be doing right now to prepare for motherhood, to prepare their mind, or just have that? What's an awareness, or what's something that you would recommend a mum to be doing to prepare for a child and emotions and lack of sleep and all of that?
So there's zero preparation you can do for lack of sleep and having a baby. But these are the things that got me through the points where I was absolutely breaking down and crying to my husband, to my mum, to my sister. I would call them and I would just cry on the phone and I would say, I don't understand why people have children. I don't get it. I don't understand. Why on earth do people have children? Why the hell do people have two when they know what it's like? I can't comprehend, like, I don't get it. And I would call my sister and I would call my mum and I would say this with tears in my eyes, with anger and sadness. Anger because I was angry that I was feeling it, and sadness because I felt like I was now trapped in this misery, right? This misery and overwhelm and absolute burnout. And one of my highest values has always been freedom, freedom of choice, freedom of time, freedom of what to do with my time. And I just felt like I was this trapped human now with no possibilities in my current reality, in my future. Felt like the world had closed in on me. So that's, I think, one of the things that we can do, and I'll tell you the things that I actually did, and then the things that we can do is and know that that's all really normal and it really does pass. And so one of the things that I would be doing is asking yourself, who are the people in my world that I can have these really raw and honest conversations with? Because in that first week after I had Amelia, so I was in hospital for the week, and I was thinking to myself all of the most horrible thoughts. Horrible, right? I've made the biggest mistake in the world. We should never have had a baby. Maybe I do need to run away. Maybe I will abandon Amelia and Chaz. Maybe I have to go, because there was too much for me to deal with. It was too much. And I remember thinking to myself, well, I can't leave because I love my husband too much. So it wasn't even that I had developed this beautiful, in the moment, quick as sunshine, unconditional love and connection with my daughter, because that wasn't my experience. And the more women I speak to, the more that is what happens. And so that is why I ask you, who can you have these really raw and honest conversations with? Who are your people that you can tell them, I hate my life at the moment, I am struggling, I am thinking this at the moment, I don't want to be here, I don't want to do this anymore, I want to give up, I'm done, I'm toast. Because all of these thoughts and feelings, they will come. There is so much hormonal action going after having a child. There is so many emotions. You've got lack of sleep. You've got, there's just no preparation you can do except for, how do I support myself in the best way to get through that phase? And it is a phase. It really is a phase. And which Vipassana helped teach me, to be honest. It really helped me. I would lay in that hospital bed and I would tap into the sensations in my body, and I would acknowledge that this will pass. This will pass, but I still need to talk to somebody. I still need to get these emotions out, and I still need to get these thoughts out. So you need to have that person. You really do. So identify them, tell them beforehand, just so you know, I might be sending you wild and wacky messages. If that makes you feel better or more confident or more comfortable in sharing whatever you're going through, tell them, warn them, prep them, whatever works for you, because this is what will get you through. There is no mother that I've worked with, nor myself, who hasn't said to me, the moment I didn't feel alone is the moment that I felt I could move forward. We need that so much as women and as new mothers. Honestly, I can't say that enough. To have the person. And on top of that, know that when the inclination comes that you need to do something for yourself, it's okay. So for me, it was 8 weeks in. So the birth was imperfect. It always is, by the way, but it was really hard. I hemorrhaged afterwards, but I also hemorrhaged 4 weeks postpartum. So it was really terrifying for me. I thought that I was going to die, and I had a lot of death stuff come up for me. But that's interesting. I just lost my train of thought. That's interesting.
Well, it's a big thing to say, firstly.
Maybe I'm not meant to share anything else after that. I go into these things and I trust that maybe if I lose my thought, I've got to go down a different route. So maybe that's what's required. Let's roll with that. So it's the people, but also the doing the thing for yourself without and not worrying about the guilt. So for me, I felt guilt all through that phase, because here I couldn't move, and I was stuck in these emotions of absolute survival. So I actually couldn't nurture my child. I couldn't nurture my daughter. I couldn't breastfeed. I couldn't connect with her in the way that I wanted, because my body was literally all over the place. And so at 8 weeks, I decided to go to my first yoga class at nighttime. And there would be judgments from women all over the world about that. There would be, that's too early. How can you leave them at nighttime? What are you doing? You need to be at home with them. There would be judgments from everywhere. However, if I didn't listen to that little voice, there is no, there is no way that I would have moved through this total disconnect and survival mode into feeling like I could mother my daughter with the love that I desired. You can't. You can't. So listen to that little voice. Listen to her. She's actually there to help you and guide you and protect you. She is there to show you, Jess, or whoever your name is, Rebecca, if you do this for yourself, you will be able to mother like you want to. If you do that, you will move through this emotion. I promise you. But I'm here to whisper to you in this moment that this is what you need. So listen to her. The guilt will be there. But I promise you, if there's one thing that I've learned over working with hundreds and hundreds of mums over the last 12 years, is that everyone's got the guilt. Everyone doesn't want to be seen as a bad mum, and nobody thinks they're doing it right. So, jump on the train, be the mum who thinks that too, and do what you need anyway. So there's another, you just get to choose it. So it's the people and the listening to that little whisper, and be so patient and compassionate with yourself that you need compassion in those first few months after having a baby. So start practicing that now. That pregnancy really was a training ground for motherhood. It got me there. And so if you can start these habits beforehand, these are the practices that set you up. Start being raw and honest with your friends now. Start doing the things that you're too scared to do for your own self-nourishment now. Start all of these things now, because it will help you. I promise you, it will help you lean into it when you need it the most. And there is no journey like the motherhood journey. It is glorious, and it is wildly fulfilling and lovable and loving. And I don't smile. I smile more now than I ever have. But if I didn't have those practices to get me through it, I probably would still be stuck there. I might be stuck there for longer than I really wanted. So they're practical, and they're also a choice, like all of our growth journeys, I think.
Sometimes they can seem so simple. You're like, that's so simple, it's dumb, I won't do it. But then you do it and you realize it's awesome. You're
Yeah.
like, that gap, isn't it?
Yeah. I said the other day, sometimes I write little poetry sentences just when I'm feeling in the flow and really inspired. And one of them was, self-care is cliche until you've seen the impact. And it's really true. If you roll your eyes at it and you cough at it, or you just think it's so cliche, then perhaps you haven't seen the glorious impact of it yet, because that's when it just becomes a necessary part of your world.
And when you're talking about the guilt and walking with the guilt, and it's going to be there, and it'll go, and then it will come back, and with a different face or a different facelift, you said, which I thought was funny. But it reminds me of this French Canadian mentor, a business coach, and she always talks about, because she's French, she always talks about fear, and similar with guilt, in that you pop it under your arm like a baguette, like the French do, and you march on. Like you just like grab the baguette,
I
whack
love
it
that.
under your arm, and just get on with it, because bring it with you. You're coming with, let's do this together. Guilt, mum guilt. Yeah, I know you're going to be here. And another thing that you said years ago, maybe in episode 18, in the parent-child relationships episode, which again, if you've enjoyed this conversation, you've got some value out of it and some gold nuggets, I'd recommend going and listening to that one too. But you said in that there's no original thought. And so it's like that
Yeah.
reminder, like you just said, like, no, you're not alone. No, the thoughts that you're thinking, every other mum is thinking some version of that same thought too. And
Oh,
although they're not admitting it because everyone wants to be perfect on Instagram, it's just not the case. We all are pooing, and so are our babies clearly. And so, yeah,
yeah. Yeah. I'm so glad you brought that out, actually, because that was the thought going through my mind, laying in that hospital bed after Amelia as well. It was, you're not alone in this. Your thoughts are combined with so many other women's thoughts, actually in this second, actually in this moment. Somebody else, hundreds of thousands of people are thinking the exact same thing as you, Jess, right now. And that then gave me some more permission to share it, because there is no original thought. It's so cool that really gives a lot of freedom and permission. It did for me.
What's one thing that you heard about that was so special in becoming a mother that you experience now and you're like, whoa, that they talk about that thing because it truly is so special?
I was sitting in my lounge room 2 weeks ago, and I was watching my daughter play with my husband, and I just sat there, and I actually just started to cry. There was just these tears that came. And what I was told and what I used to see from mums all the time was that they could just watch their child. They could just look at them. They could just look at the joy, and their whole body feels so loving and so happy watching that, right? And and that's what I felt in that moment, and I felt many times, but that just shines so much now, and I really feel it, and I get to experience it like it's this whole overwhelming bodily sensation of gratitude and love. And it is that I am and I will do absolutely anything for you, which means I will do everything for myself. And it's I will do whatever it takes so that you can shine as bright as you want to, my darling, in this lifetime. And seeing her just play, just, yeah, it's just, that's the magical thing. And I don't even know if you can bring language to it any more than what I've done, maybe. But, and I think also my previous self, my past self, I never thought that I would have a child. I never thought that I would get married. I never thought that I would love a person enough to get married. I never thought that that was my future, because I was always terrified of commitment, terrified of everything that comes with relationships. So I never thought that that was my future. And in that moment, I realized how far I've come. I realized how much I've grown, how much I've shedded, how much I've healed to have this happy moment in my home, to have this happy home. I didn't realize a happy home was possible. I damn sure wanted to make sure it was somewhere before I had a child. But just pure joy watching my daughter smile and happy. That's all I want to see every day. And I love that feeling. It's so nice. And I really do smile now more than I ever have. I get to be silly, I get to be playful. And I love that, because I probably needed more of that in my world. I probably needed to lighten up and be silly and to have that shine through in myself more often. So she gets to show me that too. Yeah, it's that dazzling look when you look at your child, that you love them so much.
She is so cute. And for anyone who's listening, when I go over and visit Jess and Amelia, and whenever I go and visit my friends who have little ones, I the moments when they crawl over you and they just like consider you part of like the play equipment or part of the it's so fun. But particularly Amelia will come up and I'll be talking to Jess, and Amelia will come up and just put her face right in mine and stare at me with these gorgeous almond chocolate eyes, and I'm just like, this is the best moment of my life. Just the curiosity and the love, and I'm like, I feel like I've been chosen. So you've baked a special little bun, that's for sure. Thanks for coming back on Into the Nothing, Jess.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
I know it's always so nice to reflect and really like to see your own story. And I know that for any woman who's listening, whether you have a few kids and it has been tough and there's an insight that you received today, you're like, oh my gosh, well, that's why that was happening, or this is what I can do now, or oh yeah, I can go outside and take a moment and smell the air if that's all I've got time to do right now. But choosing that one thing for you and remembering it really is the application, it's the doing of it to see the results. So I really hope that you have taken something away from our conversation today, and I've linked the 2 other conversations with Jess below on this podcast, and of course all of Jess's details if you want to check out what she's doing and be part of her happy home immersion. And of course, if you are feeling any kind of impulse right now to share this conversation with your sister, your girlfriend, your boss, a family member, someone that you met randomly on a travel in Mexico that you know this would help, please flick them the link to this conversation. Much appreciating the sharing and getting it out there. But thank you so much, and we'll see you in our next episode.